book readers, I'm Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be recapping the books that I read in April. Something that I realized that I want to do but I haven't been doing is kind of giving a recap at the beginning of what my reading was for the month. So I am going to pop up some charts for my reading this month. So to start out with, I read 16 books, which is my lowest so far this year, just because it was a busy time at work, and so I just didn't get as much reading done in the first couple of weeks. So that being said, I still read 16 books and just under 4,000 pages. Looks like most of what I read, there was a big chunk of mysterious, some dark, which is interesting. I didn't realize I read so many dark books, but we'll see what those are. And then adventurous is another big portion there. Looks like some of the other sizes, next ones are funny, emotional, and lighthearted. So we'll see if that's true from what I review. Let's see, pace, medium, and fast are my main ones, just as I'd expect. Page numbers, mostly 300 to 499, and just a little bit under 300. So I'm sure that's pretty consistent as well. This month I did read some nonfiction, so that's fun. I think it might be my first nonfiction of the year, but we'll see. Genres, mostly fantasy and romance. Followed by mystery, some young adult, literary, and historical, and so on. So that will be what we can expect. Format, mostly read print, followed by audio, and not a lot of digital. That was probably like one book or something of digital, which makes sense. My average rating was 3.97, so I think that's a pretty good month, actually. And you can see the breakout there. Looks like there were a lot in 4-star, so that's good. And then pages read throughout the month. Yeah, you can see some significant lulls there, and then a big peak right at the end of the month. So that is a little recap. So let's get into the books that I read. The first chunk of books that I read were for my TBR Tarot. If you want to see how I chose these books, then go ahead and watch the video that I will leave down below, which is my TBR Tarot game for April. But I'll give you my recap of these here. Quite a few of these I actually was going to use for different videos, so I might not do a full recap here, but I'll go through the list really quickly. First there was Court of Dragons, which this was all about a princess in the Dragon Isles and the elves kind of making war for the Dragon Isles. And there's a little bit of forced proximity, a little bit of romance, and that was that book. The next book I read was Curious Beginning, and this is the first book in a mystery series, which is kind of like old-timey book where we're following a butterfly hunter and then a different other historian as well, and they are trying to solve a mystery. So this is a fun time, and I will recap that more in another video. Another book that I read was River Enchanted, and this one was all about an island off of in the Scottish territory. We're following 4 main characters who are trying to solve this mystery of these girls being stolen and taken by the spirits. So they're all working together to try to solve what's happening and how can they stop it. Again, a further review will be coming soon. Another one that I'll be talking about in a future video in depth is Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and this one is like a sapphic romance about a stepsister who has to go back home to take photos for her stepsister's wedding, and there's someone there that she meets and kind of kindles some love with. so that one was a lot of fun as well. The final book that I was not reading for another video, so I can actually talk about it, is Know My Name, and this one is a memoir written by Chanel Miller, who was known previously as Emily Doe in the sexual assault case against Brock Turner, who was a swimmer for Stanford. I thought this book was so beautifully written and so educational. She throughout the book like really goes in depth and like explores exactly what she had to go through from beginning to end, like her going to the party, the like rape kit test at the hospital, the interviews with the police officers, the whole jury, and prepping for a court case and going through that entire process all the way to like after it. And so you get a very in-depth look of the entire process, which I think is very heartbreaking, shows a lot of, you know, faults in our system and just how traumatizing this can be for people who decide to go through the whole court process. I thought this was an amazing book. I think it is something that everyone should read, pending that they are, you know, in the right mental state and able to read this. But I think, you know, everyone, no matter who you are, male, female, non-binary, like teens, adults, like grandparent age, like anywhere in between, I think that this is a very important book and for our society, and I just think that we can all learn a lot from this. So I would highly suggest this book. The next set of books that I read in this month were all for my bunny reads kind of spring Easter kind of video. So I read a ton of books that had bunnies on the cover. And so I will go ahead and link that down below for you as well if you want to see my in-depth review on these, but I'll give you a quick summary of all of these books. First there was Bunny. It's kind of like witchy but sorority, like Mean Girls vibes. Like, it's a whole thing. I literally cannot put any other words together to make this make sense. So if you're interested in this book, you're just gonna have to go watch that video. The next book I read was The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, and this one is about like a China doll rabbit who goes from different family to different family, and you see how his life changes and how his heart grows throughout this journey. The next book was an ARC actually, so it will be coming out later this year, and it is Our Crooked Hearts. This one is all about like a mother and daughter kind of getting into witchcraft. You know, some things go wrong and you see how those things impact the present day and the daughter's life as well. So this one was a really fun read, and if you want to hear more about it, go watch that video. Then I am just going to quickly run through some other books that I read in this month that I will be showing in upcoming videos. Next one is Dreams Lie Beneath. This one is all about our main characters who are kind of protectors of their town from nightmares. And then the final one in this category is The Midnight Girls, which is all about a couple of different like witches' apprentices going and hunting for princes' hearts. Not because they want romance, like that kind of heart, but I mean like their actual heart from their body. They are hunting them. Now to just get into all of the other books that I read that are not for any other kind of videos, I just read them for fun. The first book that I read was the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, and this one gave me very similar vibes to other books like Bringing Down the Duke and the Ladies' Formula for Love, where it's like this kind of Victorian feminist romance type of book. I just want to say, I think I actually enjoyed this one more than the other two books that I have read that are similar to this, just because like this story is all about lady scoundrels, and like they're not afraid to like be in this scandal and like, you know, just be scoundrels. And so I thought that aspect of it was so fun. There's lots of like fun magical elements to it too. A house that floats in the air, and there are pirates, and just like other elements of magic and fantasy. And so I really enjoyed that in this book. And I mean, the romance wasn't too bad either. The next book I read was The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I had to read this one. Everyone is like, Mariana Zapata is the queen of the slow burn. One of my friends was like absolutely raving about this book, like I had to read it, and I've put it off for so long because I was like, this book is about football, right? And I was like, I don't know if I really am like into the sports romance, like I get enough football thrown at me throughout our everyday life, right? And so I wasn't sure if I was feeling it. But the main character is kind of in the same boat. And so right off the bat, I was like, oh, okay, I wouldn't actually mind this book. So that being said, I actually wasn't totally in love with this book, unlike it sounds like a lot of people are, just because I was not a huge fan of our male protagonist in this story. Like, I didn't really like him. And so then if I don't like him, I don't like the relationship, and then I don't like the book, you know? So that was a little bit unfortunate, but I did hear from my friend that this book has like the male protagonist that is the least likable. So I might still be interested in trying some of her other books later on, who have a more likable male protagonist, just to see if I do like her other stories. So if you do have any suggestions for other Mariana Zapata books, or I mean like any other romance books, but you know, leave them down below and so that I know which ones I should check out. The next book I read was The Cartographers, and this one is a story all about a girl whose father is murdered, and he was like the lead cartographer historian at the New York Library, and so she is A, trying to solve a mystery, but also B, finding out a little bit more about this world that he was trying to hide her from, because apparently in this world, maps that have like a little hidden extra area on it are actually like keys to get into that extra area. For example, if on like a blueprint they had the building drawn as is, but maybe they like drew a little hidden closet in there that's not actually part of the building, you could hold that map and like get access to that secret closet. So I thought that like aspect of the story was so interesting and creative. I like definitely haven't read stories about cartographers before, and so I thought this was like a really cool niche that I had not read about before. However, I feel like the rest of the story was just kind of like nothing exceptional. But overall, I still really enjoyed my time with the book. So if it sounds like something that's interesting to you, I would definitely suggest reading it, but it's just not going to be like my top rated book of the year, you know? The next book that I read was The Hunting Party, and this is another Lucy Foley book. This one is all about a group of like college buddies who get together and go on this kind of retreat to just like hang out with each other and like get caught up on each other's lives. And so as it is a Lucy Foley, it is a murder mystery, and we do have all those different perspectives for the different people. In this one we have like the beautiful one, the golden couple, the volatile one, the new parent, the quiet one, the city boy, and the outsider. And it is like an isolated location because they're snowed in at this like resort, like a cabin kind of resort. But yeah, so this one overall I thought was pretty similar to the guest list. having already read the guest list, I could like definitely see, you know, how she transitioned from writing this book to that one. There are lots of similarities, like it's a group of friends from back when. They are on an isolated location, you know, this is another murder mystery, so it just was very similar. So if you really enjoyed Guest List, you might enjoy this, but if you're gonna be very picky, I think Guest List was better than this one. So, you know, you can decide whether it's worth your time or not. The next book that I read was A Touch of Darkness, and this one is kind of like a Hades and Persephone retelling, but like more modern. Hades is in charge of like this gambling empire, and Persephone is a journalist. Overall, I mean, it was a fun read. It wasn't like I disliked my time with it. It just like wasn't anything exceptional again. So, you know, if you're just looking for like a good comfort kind of steamy read, then it's a good choice. But it definitely wouldn't be like my top choice. Overall, I think I was kind of disappointed that like we didn't get more of like actual Hades and Persephone like mythology in here. It was basically like they used their names and everything else could have been like interchangeable with any other person in the world. Just in that aspect, it was a little bit of a disappointment, but overall, like I said, it's a good read, and if you are interested, like, go for it. The next book that I read was All Her Little Secrets, which was for the Literally Dead book club, which is for like led by Kayla from Books and Lala. This one was probably my favorite book that we read for that book club so far this year. This book is all about our main character, who is a Black woman in corporate law, and her boss is actually like murdered, and she like was sleeping with him before he was murdered, and so there's just like a little bit of sus, and she has to figure out who did it before they think it's her and like take her in for it. So it was like a good read, and I think something I'm learning is that I really like law in books. I have no idea why, but like I seem to consistently like when there is like lawyer and like law kind of drama. The book definitely had me like intrigued the entire time I was reading it. Something I definitely loved was like the side characters. Like they were side characters in this book. Like you felt for them just as much as you did for the main character, and I thought that was exceptional. I also, in addition to the discussion of like kind of law stuff, I really enjoyed the discussion of corporate and like societal culture and the lack of diversity in like corporate environments, especially in like the C-suite, since she is kind of being promoted up into that highest level of the business. So I really enjoyed all of those discussions throughout the book, and I thought that it was, you know, really realistically done. Overall, I was very surprised this was like a debut, and like, again, I thought it was great. I think it was my favorite of this book club selections all year, so like very happy with this book. The final book that I read in this month was The Vanishing Half, and I am super late to this game, but I finally read it and I agree it was great. I would say me as a reader, I prefer like action and something that keeps the story driving, and that's not necessarily the book that you're gonna get here. Doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's a different kind of book. Despite it not having like action after action, like a journey or something driving us through the story, I think that I was really captivated all the way through, just because I loved seeing all of the different like generations and the family dynamics that like change over the time period. I also thought it was so interesting to see all of these different like individuals in their own lives, all of their different perspectives, since we have multiple different perspectives in this book. which drives the story. Overall, I thought this was a great book. Those were all the books that I read in April. Please let me know down below what books were your favorite in April so that I can pick them up in the upcoming months. And if you liked this video, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. I would really appreciate it. Until next time, keep reading!